on that over the last weekend. I'm going to be speaking at a conference this weekend. And one of the ways, when you start to introduce yourself, you start to reflect, like, what's my story? And I think my story is a little different, and it may be something that others can relate to, but I don't think it's the majority. I practiced almost 20 years. I graduated in from New York Chiropractic College in 2006, and I went to chiropractic college. I look back at it now, and my story really genuinely feels like there's no doubt God was in the mix the whole time for me. But I didn't have an inspiring story to get to chiropractic college. I came from a legacy of nurses, of registered nurses in my house. My mom, my grandmother, my great grandmother, they were all nurses, and I thought for sure I was going to nursing school. And so I went into college, I went into nursing school within the university that I was at, and I quickly learned that I didn't like it. And I had no idea where I was going next. And so I spent a lot of years, well, or to some degree, at least a couple of years, trying to figure out where I fit in and what I wanted to do. I knew the human body really intrigued me. I wanted to be there. Um, but I really didn't know where I was going to land. And I honestly was sitting in church one Sunday afternoon. I think I was a junior in college, and my mom kind of gave me the poke, and she goes, do you know this guy a couple seats ahead of us? He's a chiropractor. You should talk to him. You might find that really interesting. And I had never been exposed to chiropractic in my life. And I talked to this chiropractor, and he was a great guy, and he inspired me on some stories that he was sharing. And I thought it was kind of neat, and I thought this could be cool. And I genuinely went to chiropractic college, not being adjusted until I was introduced to this chiropractor, understanding what chiropractic really was. And I was super embarrassed of that story for a long time. I went to chiropractic college, and I realized, like, all these people around me, all these students around me were legacy chiropractors. They had grown up with chiropractic. They knew what chiropractic was. They were inspired. They went through miracles of chiropractic. And I kept my mouth shut because I knew nothing. And I thought, what am I doing here? And it isn't until now, 20 years looking back, that I realized, like, God had led my steps the whole way. Like, he wanted me to be a chiropractor before I even knew what chiropractic was. I went through chiropractic college. I was a good, diligent student. I worked hard. I buried my head for, those 3.5 years, and got out and had no idea what I was going to do. And I worked for a chiropractor that I didn't get very far. I worked for another associateship, didn't go very far. We're getting right to the brunt of the market crash at that time. Things were not going well. I really didn't know. I didn't have any leadership. I was forced into opening my own practice because I didn't know where I was going. And I got into my first year of practice and just kind of kept hoping and praying that I was in the right spot. And I got a phone call from a local coach while I was, working a year in, just trying to make it happen. He worked down the street from me, and I thought, why is somebody local reaching out to me? The chiropractors should be we're competitors with each other. And then I realized, oh, actually, we're a brotherhood and a sisterhood. Like, we want to see each other succeed. There are too many people for one person, one chiropractor to see in any one community. Like, we have to be able to help and support each other. And
Yes.
so I've gone from not feeling like I had a place in the chiropractic world, not feeling like I had a really even like the right to be in this, like, really what I feel like now is like a sacred profession. And I back at it now, and I think, oh, I'm creating my own legacy now. I have kids that are interested in chiropractic. I just brought one of our patients that was a patient of mine for a long time, went to chiropractic college, young woman. She's now doing her, like, last trimester internship with me, and is likely going to come work at my office. So I get to see where things went from scarcity, from absolutely nothing, to at a time when, like, we have a really thriving practice that I get to balance my family and my work life and have a whole lot of joy in the success that we see.
That's perfect, and that's where we're going to start. We're going to dig in. I mean, that I love that story. I love that story. It's very similar to mine. I'm not legacy by any means.
Okay.
I'm
Me
from
either.
I'm from if you know what poorer than poor is, that's where I come from. My dad was not. My dad was a disabled individual who he didn't have a job. He raised two kids on his own and da da da. So I'm not legacy either. And
Okay.
crazy enough, I didn't know when I started in chiropractic that I was going to create and start just like you a legacy. Now my son's in chiropractic college, so
I love it.
that is awesome. So I'm gonna hand it over to Travis.
Well, your story is not as foreign sounding as you think. So, but
No.
that's part of this, right? I mean, our whole intent here is to give these new guys and gals someone else they can talk to, right? I mean, obviously you can go to coaches and pay, and that's not a problem. I don't, both Wes and I, you yourself, all in management groups, but it's not as odd as you think, right? Because once again, um, I'm the most educated in my family. I've done things that no one in my family has ever done. No one in my family has ever even owned a business before. So, certainly not successfully. So yes, and you kind of it's funny because we set up our questions and every time we do this, you guys kind of pour right into the next question, which is why I was smiling earlier. You know, obviously we wanted you to talk about any early struggles, right? And you kind of hit on some of that. If there's anything else in there as you're going from associateship to associateship,
Yeah.
that you feel like is it would be helpful,
Yeah.
by all means, go ahead and elaborate on that. Otherwise, we'll go to the next question.
I think for me, the reason why I really fought against, I found in my life and it's in all aspects that when God wants me to do something, like I'm probably kicking and screaming along the way. Like
Mhm.
I'm really not like jumping forward for a lot of those moments.
Yeah.
And so I felt a lot of security and safety in being an associate. I really fought against having my own practice, opening up on my own. And as a new graduate, I can understand where that comes from for a lot of students. And so when I went into these associateships, it was really, if I looked at my number one motivation for being in an associateship, is that I didn't like being alone. I didn't like not having a team member to just really be able to have a conversation with. I think if I had those resources when I started, or if I thought to like, I when I graduated, I remember I sent my resumes out to every single chiropractor in my county. Just I didn't know what would happen. That a chunk of them come back to me. They're not even practicing chiropractors anymore, but I sent them to everybody, but I never actually followed up on a lot of them. I don't know if I felt like I was bothering chiropractors. I know if I got a phone call now from somebody that was starting into practice, I'd take that call in a heartbeat because I know what that was. I know what that time was. I genuinely felt alone. And I think that's why the consulting group started to appeal to me at one point because I didn't have a lot of friends in chiropractic. I graduated and nobody really came back to my area. I had one other girlfriend and she was so much on an island herself, that she left the profession and she went back to be a PA and like within like a year and a half of graduating chiropractic college. So, I kept thinking that my answer was to work for another doc, but I'm not sure that really was my answer. I think when I really had enough when I had the resources in place to be able to talk ideas out and what are you doing and how do you do this and not feeling like I was bothering somebody but actually having a friend in chiropractic, I think that would have helped me feel more confident about going out on my own. But I genuinely came out and felt like I don't know what's next. I don't know where I'm going, and I don't even know who to talk to get me to that next step. I think we need each other in order to actually feel like we can move forward.
Absolutely. Were there any other struggles? Did you always
Financially,
know
it
you were going to
wasn't.
go back home? Are you from Syracuse?
I'm from Syracuse,
So
and
you went back home.
I was kind of going back home. I'm from a town like an hour from here. My husband's from Syracuse, so I grew up in even a smaller area than even
Okay.
Syracuse was, and and financially we didn't really know where we are. I'm just getting married out of chiropractic college. My husband's a teacher. At the time he was carrying both of us, and I had this ginormous student loan that I didn't know how I was going to pay off and where I was going with that. I look back at that now and I wish I would have stressed about that a little bit less because it comes like it's the non-issue, but at the moment it was like my most critical question. How am I going to pay back my student loan? It comes. It's not as urgent as we think it is when we step out that door. So financially we didn't really know, and I thought again there was a security and an associateship, and there really wasn't because I was making nothing. Like I was making nothing. So here I am bringing home a couple $100 a week going, what am I going to do? And when I went through these two associateships, one of which I left, the other one I got let go of because it was a satellite office and the doc couldn't afford to keep it open after only 6 months. And I went, it's been 6 months. Like I couldn't even like start the race here at this point. And we had, like I said, just got married, and my husband looked at me and he was like, well, we had made $10,000 at our wedding, and we were going to start a business with that $10,000. And we used every dime of what we had from our wedding to try and invest into finding any place I could open this tiny little, like, 600 square foot office that I just needed to start adjusting people. And so I think, again, like I was so worried about the financial in the very beginning, like I had no money to start this. I didn't need anything. I needed to buy a table. I needed couple months of like a sledge fund. I had enough friends and family that would come in to just like pay my bills, and that all came afterwards. It all works out, but you just need to like the idea of actually jumping into that position and feeling like I have no money and I have no help. It feels like it's impossible at the time.
Absolutely. So you kind of already talked or touched on, of course, the next question, but where I want to go here, and I know the answer to this. I mean, I know, so those that watch this know, I know Nicole through a group that she's in that I'm in also, and you guys have seen, I've interviewed Dr. Joe Borio, Travis and I have interviewed Dr. Joe Borio on here. Dr. Travis is in the group as well, and we have been for years. And so I know the answers here, but I want them to hear it. I want them to hear your story on it. So when it comes, and maybe there was more, when it comes to mentors and when it comes to that moment where you realized, okay, you know what, maybe I need to get some help, maybe I need to do something, kind of go over that time frame. If there's more than just him, mention those mentors. Who was intricate in your, because we all felt on an island. I mean, we all did.
Yeah.
Our generation of chiropractors had that moment where, we always would say that chiropractors eat their young.
Oh
That's no
God, yeah.
longer the way that it is. I don't believe. I don't see
Right.
that as often at all.
Right.
So kind of go over those moments where what mentors did you utilize, and go over those moments when you made that decision.
I think for me, I had two chiropractic mentors while I was going through school. And it's funny, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. Um, but looking back at it now, I thought they were really going to be two mentors that motivated me. And I think they did the exact opposite for me. And so these were chiropractors that were like working from scarcity. They were brilliant, smart docs, no doubt. Um, but they didn't get me excited about chiropractic. And I kind of started to feel like this is all there is. Like it started to make me go down the wrong road. Like if I'm choosing going left or right, like I'm going down this right side that feels almost like I had a regret in what decision I made to be a chiropractor. And I'm thinking these are my mentor examples. So, you start to find it you're really reflective of the company you hold. And so I started going down this road with a bunch of docs that were really feeling kind of down in the dumps themselves and feeling like, man, this is the hardest place to, or the hardest time to be a chiropractor. And, this is what we're dealing with. And Medicare was changing and there was this going on and that going on. And my God, real fast, you start to hate going into work in the morning. So I started to realize like, there's gotta be something better than this, because I do not want to like misery loves company this at all. Like this is not going to work for me. And so I think if you're finding those people in your group, you need to take a step back, because it's really not it's not a fun way to practice. It's not an exciting way to practice. You're not going to find a fulfilling way to practice that way. But I realized that like I can utilize certain docs in my life as mentors in certain ways, but when it comes to like the development of what we do as chiropractors, some people are just not going to make the mark for that. And so recognizing it and pulling back and knowing that, okay, those aren't the people I want to use as my mentors in my life. I didn't realize there was an alternative to that. And yes, when, Dr. Joe practiced when he did, and 2 miles down the street from me. And he was very well known in my community as being the most, the busiest chiropractor essentially in anywhere. I mean, at this point. And so as a 26-year-old, I'm super intimidated to even have a conversation with someone like that. And he made the first step and called me. And I remember thinking like I said, I don't understand, like, why is he trying to help me? The idea of me being competition is almost comical to say out loud. Like I was seeing so little. I was just pittance down the street, and he was giving me mercy at that point. Like, let me talk to you. Like there's got to be something here for you. And when I realized that somebody was actually there to to not only build me up, because one of the first things I didn't have coming out of chiropractic college was confidence in what we did, the ability to communicate it. None of that really came naturally. We never learned it. I didn't even know. And I don't consider myself as someone that is unable to have that conversation. I was capable. I just wasn't taught what it meant. I did There was so much black and white to chiropractic college. There was nothing exciting about what I was coming out for. Nothing. I didn't have any grasp of that. So when I go to when I get called out by a mentor that then has connections to really introduce me to people that made a totally different community of people. I sat in Joe's seminar the first time, and Jeannie Ohm was there, and I got to sit, and I walked out of there like, tell me more. Just tell. I want to hear. I just want to sit next to you so I can hear what you say to other people. I don't even know what to ask you. I just want to listen to you. And so I started to realize there are other people in this profession that were leaders, and they were embracing teaching the next generation. And I got the opportunity to learn from them, be excited by them, and surround myself by those people. It changes your mindset overnight. You go, oh, like this is totally different. So you have to watch your company real fast when it comes to picking the right people to be mentors. Just because somebody's been doing it a long time doesn't mean that they're, the right person to convey and confide in.
I think you're the first person that we've interviewed that has made that comment right there. It's about the group. It's about the people that you do surround yourself with. Because I mean, I've been in practice 24 years. I've been in 4 or 5 different management groups, and you ain't lying, sis.
Yeah.
There's no lie in that. So, and it's taken me this long to find 2 coaches that I believe are congruent with myself. Have a lot of, and one of them I'm not even in their group, but have a lot of similarities and such. So
Sure.
So obviously, we're talking about Dr. Joe Borio. Um, is are you a part of that management group? You've been a part of that management group for a while. Have you been a part of another management group before that?
Uh, I have been part of, again, this is where I see like God just kept pushing me right in the right direction before I saw it. I was in my own practice for 1 year before Joe called me, and that was 18 years ago, and I've been with him ever since. And I've never,
Awesome.
there's a loyalty
it was a
vibe with
good
us
decision.
Italians. I
Yeah, yeah,
don't
absolutely.
know.
The reason I ask is, not unlike yourself, we've found good mentors. Wes and I talk on a regular basis, and we still talk. We talked today about a mutual friend's fantastic guy, and it just there's certain things that aren't going fantastically in his life. His practice seems to be doing okay, but uh, at some point, if what they're doing is seems just crazy, I can't. I don't want to hear about that. I don't want, let's talk about the things where we are on the same page. And
Yeah.
that's because we've been very guarded about who we let on our porch, right? Obviously, we all kind of got the same information from the same guy, right? And I've been in a couple different management groups, and I find that some of the information was fantastic. We still hang on to it. Even if I don't really like where the direction went, there's still some good stuff. And I'm always I'm smart enough to be able to pick the bones out of the fish and eat the fish, right? So,
Smart enough
um,
now. I may not have been a few years
well,
ago.
yeah. Um,
A
but
few years ago, not so much.
yeah, so I just want to make sure that was the only, you know, I guess significant coach and mentor that you'd had, right? So we've had some that had multiple, but
Yeah.
never was in a group with them. So and that's fine. But my our next question, right? You talked about, I don't know if you're still in the same 600 square foot office, but we would like to know about kind of the style of office, the
Yeah.
offerings that you have, any specialties
Yeah.
that you like to tout.
Sure. So I've actually we've had some big progression over even the last year. So I started in a little 600 square foot office space. My dad was my office manager.
Yes.
He worked my front desk for me my first year. I still have some patients that will remember how he would come out and help the ladies take their coats off, hang them on the rack. They remember my dad. So it's funny. I was, um, the student from chiropractic college that's walking with me right now, we sometimes will look at the file number and I'll go, oh, look, this is file number 17. We have 4,000 files in our office now. So I'm like, this one's been with me from the beginning. And so, we get to reflect on like where that's come from and what that person means to us and what they've seen us go through. So I started really small because my mentality was like, I don't need a lot of money to make this start. I don't have a lot of money to make this start. So we're going to make this really simple. I need my hands. And I had the chiropractor that had been my very initial kind of mentor sitting in church that one day was an activator doc. So he had adjusted me with activator when I expressed interest. And so I really kind of, I found a niche there to some extent, and I still use it a lot. I still maintain my proficiency, my advanced proficiency rating with activator. I also use a lot of manual adjusting techniques too. But between those two, it's pretty much where I fall. So we started to outgrow that space within the first couple years, and we moved within my same office building. I was able to move to a space that had 1,200 square feet, and that was really exciting. And I thought, okay, now I've got this waiting area, and I've got people that are seeing each other when they walk in the office. And I I have no problem with open adjusting. I just don't do it in my office. I have pocket doors and I keep them open all the time. And so everybody can kind of hear. My waiting room is right in front. So everybody can hear everything. But I don't know, I genuinely believe this is specific to me as a woman. I have women especially that will come in and want to connect with me for a minute, and they want a moment of privacy for that. And I can close the door if I need to and not feel like that person doesn't have my like one-on-one attention in that moment. And so I don't know, I've never really stepped away from it. My doors are open 99% of the time, but I have the ability to close it if I need to and someone needs a minute from me that feels like I have to close out the outside for a second. So I've always had four adjusting areas, and I have my pocket doors. And I started to see that we were even building again, and we were seeing more patients and things were getting busier. So I was able to break into the space next to mine and add another 800 square feet. And I could put my staff back there because now they weren't taking up space and I had all this open room. And so for the last now 17 years, I had functioned out of this one office building, and I had grown to about 2,000 square feet. Well, this year, this last year has been a doozy. Between not feeling really at my best physically over the summer, but at the end of last year, I'd had it in my head I was going to try and buy my office building. There's 10 units in my space, and I was like, I'm ready to do this. I can buy this space. So I went to my landlord and I said, will you give me first right of refusal if you decide to sell the building? And he's kind of hemmed and hawed around it and said, yeah, I'll let you know. Well, very long story short, he decided he was going to sell the building pretty quickly. And he came to me and said, make me an offer. Well, I made him an offer. He didn't like that offer. And he wouldn't really come back at me with a number. So I kept making a little bit more of an offer. I'm like, I can't really counter you until you give me something. So it was getting to be a really uncomfortable situation. Joe gave me some guidance on it. We sat down last summer, so a year ago, thought we had things ironed out. About a month later, I hadn't heard from him to finalize, and another tenant in the building came to me and said, hey, did you meet the new landlord? And I went, what new landlord? I'm supposed to buy this building. It was really just a total mess. New landlord comes in. I'm really not a happy person. And as a small Italian woman, I can really have a moment of rage if I need to. So I had to close my mouth. And diplomatically, this guy looked at me like, I mean, he's 23 years old and looked at me like he just was gonna like run out of my space crying if I looked at him sideways again. So he doubled my rent. It was a whole thing, and I went, I'm not staying for this. Like, this is not what I can do. And again, I look back at just where God's led me. Yes, and in my area, the real estate is minimal. There is just not much commercial real estate around. but I was determined I was going to get out of there. My pride, Lord Jesus, please help me with my pride. But that was just a moment. I was not going to stay. Like there was no way I was going to stay. And we put a bid in on the building that was beautiful, too far from me, like 4 miles. It was just outside my comfort zone and it's a really high traffic area. And I just felt like gut wise, that was not going to be a great space for me. We lost the bid again. I think just exactly what was supposed to happen. The very next day, a building around the corner from me on the main street came up for sale. Had to be a quick sale. The building was garbage. It has been now I've had to rebuild it from the inside out, but I was able to buy a building. I have a tenant in the building. I have a subletter in my space, and we're independent. And I have, 2,500 square feet, more than enough. I have 1,000 square feet for a tenant and another person subletting within me. And, we've got this like big, beautiful space that I got to put my name on, and I got to put my touch on, and I got to really like make it my own. And it has been a giant stressor and a giant blessing all at the same time. But I'm at the end of where that is. So at least it's put together and functional and looks beautiful. So it's been a journey for sure.
So what's crazy is the lines of your practice life and mine, and Travis knows this, are running very similar.
Oh,
I was in a building for 17 years and I signed a lease to own, and I was very young. I didn't get an attorney involved when I first signed it. And I went in 2020. I went to the guy. Well, it was 2019. I went to the owner and I said, "Hey, I'm ready to just like buy you out. I want
yeah.
to go ahead because I wanted to do a bunch of different changes. I was going, through Joe's stuff and all that, and I was like, no, I want to knock down some walls." So he said, "Okay, did you read page 10 of the contract?" And I was like, "I read it all. I read the contract and signed it." And he goes, "Well, I hate to inform you of this, but on the last page, it states that this is foregone if I sell the entire complex." And I sold the entire complex last week. So 17 years of me paying the payment that I thought was going towards it in 2019, and then the new owners came in and they didn't double, but they increased my rent quite a bit. And I was like, then 2020 breaks out. We all know what happened then, and I'm like, I got to find a place to build.
Oh,
So I did same stuff, sis. But you're just proving that it can be done. It's Travis and I are from the school of hard knocks, so to speak. We're country boys, both from Oklahoma. He's not in Oklahoma now, but we're country boys from Oklahoma. So we just fight to survive. So it's just one of those moments that to us, it's a defining moment. It's a defining
for
moment.
sure.
Like you're having a lot of them right now. So that
Sure.
kind of leads to the next question. So you've told us some of the struggles you had in the beginning.
Yeah.
Now, agree or disagree, the struggles don't end.
No.
You continue to have them
Yes.
later on down the road. So you've already shared one recent struggle, and I know of another one, and I hope you touch on it. Like, what are some of the recent struggles you've had in practice?
Yeah, it's kind of something else I was reflecting on is I was going to speak this weekend, but it's been the last 7 years from and look, it's been the last like so every year. I mean, there was always a struggle from the even through chiropractic college. There was a struggle coming out of chiropractic college. Like it was always hard. And it starts to get in your head like, should it be this hard? But things are this hard. Like it is kind of what it is, and you have to either embrace it and change how you want to go forward with it, or you can crumble with it. And I never really. It took me years of getting more confident and knowing that having a lot of security and confidence in where we were, that I wasn't going to crumble on it. Like it was just going to be the next challenge, and I probably wasn't alone in it, and somebody else was going to really kind of be there with me. But I've looked at all the things over the last 20 years that I've been in practice, between, two failed associateships, between maternity leaves. Like as a mom, I was like, how am I going to have a baby? Like, could I have a baby on a Friday and maybe go back to work like Tuesday? Like, is that, like, that's where in my head is, how am I going to step away from my practice for any length of time? Where is this going to come from? And then it was, and I was obviously married before that. And that was a challenge of then buying a house, and how do we want to do that? Where's that coming from? And then it was absolutely COVID, and that was a challenge. And then I faced some pretty big health issues. And so about 7 years ago, I had my third child, and I had delivered in the hospital, and I ended up with a severe infection from the hospital. And my, in a time when, especially as a chiropractor, you don't realize that to some degree, you feel like you have control over your health. You feel like you're doing all the things right. So what can go wrong? I know I wasn't saying those words, but in retrospect, my brain, my heart was telling me that because I was flabbergasted that my health could be upset the way that it was. I'm eating well, I'm exercising, I'm leading my community in healthcare as far as how to teach others to do these things. I'm getting adjusted every week. Like I'm doing all these things, talking to my community. And now I get stuck with something that I didn't really have much control over and I can't seem to get myself out of. And I questioned a lot. I even questioned chiropractic for a while. Like I don't, how is it failing me? I felt like it was failing me, to be honest. And so it started to shape how I led my practice for the last 7 years, my motivation behind it, my ability to run it in the first place. And I started to focus more on balance than I ever had because for a long time, I think I was very much focused on my office. I could tell you I wasn't, but I was like in early days, it was probably a little out of control. Like I spent, if I wasn't in the office, I was thinking about it and what my next move was. And it seemed natural. And then I realized like as a mom and a business owner and as a chiropractor and as a boss to, my staff and all the other things that were kind of going on in my life as a daughter and as, I was really involved in my church and I never said no. And I never really found the balance that I think was best for me. And I think my body went, nope, you're done. And come to find out, I had grown up in a very rural area. Like my dad, we lived in the woods. My dad was a hunter. Like this was just, and so what I had come to find out afterwards was that I had probably a dormant tick infection and ended up being sparked with Lyme disease. So between my Lyme and
Travis
the
knows why I'm
infection
laughing.
on there,
Sorry,
Hmm.
he knows why I'm laughing, but we'll get to it in a minute. Go ahead.
oh yeah, and between those two things, like my body had just said, like, it was screaming at me that I needed to stop. I needed to figure this out. So I started, I, I say only, but I worked 2.5 days in my office intentionally. And I could go back more now. I know it's not good for me. Like I need to really focus on having that balance between recovery because I can easily see 250 people in a day. Like I can't do that the next day. I cannot do that. My body needs to
They
rest.
say that again. You can easily see how many in a day?
250.
Atta girl.
So, I can see a busy day. Tomorrow we have 260 people scheduled. Like it'll be a busy day. And then I get Thursday morning off so that I can like rest, be a mom, do what I need to for myself, take care of my kids. And then I work for a few hours in the afternoon on Thursdays. Like I think it's an important lesson for people to learn that like you're going to get curveballs that you don't expect and you need to be able to figure out how best to take care of yourself and get through them, not give up but get through them. Like there's always an answer. And if you would have told me 20 years ago that I was going to cut back to 2.5 days a week, I think my heart would have jumped out of my chest. Like I would have been like, no, like I have to be there, like the world is going to fall apart if I'm not there. And then I realized like I'm no good to anybody if I'm not taking care of myself along the way. So I found ways to do it better, to be more present when I was there, to be more present when I was home, and to actually give myself some time.
Awesome. Um, Lyme's disease.
Oh
Hmm.
man,
I need to talk to you. I
I
found we'll talk off
I
sometime.
would love that.
For 3 years, I haven't had a single flare up. I found a good doc here who did micronutrient panels, all that stuff. Found out where the deficiencies were, and Travis knows. For 13 years, I was telling my friends like we'd go hunting and all that, and I'm like, guys, I'm stuck. Like I can't move. There would be work to be done. There's always work to be done when you're hunting, and I'm like,
Yeah, I
Travis,
was
can
there
you
to
do
do all
this?
the heavy lifting. That's
So
what it was.
I
What
was
friends
out,
are
and
for.
he didn't understand, and none of them understood it until I think he understood it that day because I
Yeah,
couldn't even move my hands. I mean,
yeah.
I was stuck. I was done. It felt like arthritis. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I feel you, sis. It's not good, but it's been three years, I think, Travis, 3 or 4 years. I haven't not only have I not had a flare up for that time frame. I didn't run more than half a mile. I run 6 miles, a couple times a week now, no problem. So
That's
uh,
inspiring. I want to hear
I
more.
found some stuff. So we
Yeah,
will
that's
talk.
amazing.
All right, Travis, go ahead. So
So as far as marketing goes, how do you promote your office or your services? Anything that you feel like has worked out great? I tried this, it didn't work. It's not congruent with me. I did this, I did that. This is what I stick to. What do you do to market your business?
I don't do anything anymore. I don't do anything externally anymore. I do
Okay.
a ton inside my office, and that is where I feel most confident. In the beginning, I found a really good way of doing screenings that I felt really good about because I hated those. I like it. Nobody. I don't think a lot of people love them. God bless the people that do. I don't love them, but I found ways to do them that I enjoyed, and it was usually because I could pull on a practice member that brought me into their workspace and already kind of set up a road for me. And then I could bring a staff member with me and we would run a scan or we would run screenings in whatever like setup. Maybe they had like a Friday healthcare day and like we were the, the guest that day. Those were super successful. And I loved those because we were kind of brought in with the red carpet. I tell when I've been talking to my associate who's coming in, those are the things you're going to work for in the very beginning. Is who do you know who can bring you into their space that already trusts you, loves you, and where can you present yourself in those scenarios? Like I don't want to go sit the home and garden show with a tent. Like that's so not my thing. And so I never was great at those. I never really felt like they were worth my time. I wanted somebody to bring me in that felt like they were, excited for me to come talk. So those were great in the very beginning. They brought in a lot of people for me when I did them the right way. And since then, since we were able to kind of move and become and get busier, I don't do a ton outside. I probably could. I don't feel like I need to. Um, I think I would say we will see anywhere between, I don't know, we don't see a ton of new patients a week. I would say we see like 4 to 6 new patients in a week, and that's plenty for me by a mile to continue to sustain to grow. We only have 5 new patient appointments in our week. Like we set them up at specific times. Once they're filled, like we go to the next week. And so there are times in my year, the girls will say to me, like, you're booked out for a month, you're booked out for 2 months. I'm like, all right, like those are good problems. Like we'll deal with that. But most of the time when it comes to marketing, I go right back to like our checkup paperwork that will ask them intentionally, like, who do that may be interested in chiropractic? Um, and I found myself like not even reading them. Like it was on the sheet in front of me and I'd skip over it that it was in front of my face. I'd forget that I needed to say something. And so we realized like, oh man, we just have to ask for them. So at a recheck, it's such a great opportunity to say to somebody like, oh, I see you wrote here somebody was interested in chiropractic. Who is it that you're thinking about? Oh, well, my husband needs to be here. He really does need to be here. I would love to be able to take care of him. Let me do this. Let me give you a patient packet so you can take it home. And so you have it on hand. When he's ready, we're here. And if you want, we'll even give him a call so that we can go ahead and set that up. That'd be great. He's never going to call. Okay, great. We have all these little like moments during our year, our own calendar year, that I think bring more and more people in just because we have the conversation. Rechecks are all the time. We do things around Mother's Day and Father's Day. And I'm not promoting a lot of promotional, like financial stuff, but we'll talk about ways that, like, I have the conversation around kids all through September. It's all about backpacks and it's all about have we checked for scoliosis or have we checked for posture and have we checked for their sports exams and all the other things that go around it. And we get a ton of kids around that. Um, we do that for teachers when we do teacher appreciation, and all of a sudden we can bring those guys in. I think if you have the conversation or you plant the seed, they don't all bloom at the same time. And I'm great with that. But if you have the conversation a ton, they start like sprouting at different times enough to keep me busy. You have to keep having the conversation. And I think I'm good at not putting I'm not a high pressure person. I don't respond to that. I don't feel like that's congruent with my personality and how I would want to be talked to. So I plant the seed a lot. Like I'll say, when mom's in, have you ever thought about, her daughter, Sarah, the daughter sitting right there next to the table, kind of playing with me and mom as we're getting her adjusted. Have you ever thought about getting Sarah adjusted? Yeah, actually, I have thought about that. Let's talk about it. What's holding you back? Where is your mindset? What are you thinking about? Or no, I haven't thought about that. Oh, I totally understand and respect that. I didn't know that the chiropractic was so appropriate for my kids. The number one, two, three reason moms and dads bring their kids to the chiropractor, better immune system, better sleep, better temperament. Like, I don't know a lot of moms and dads that aren't excited about that stuff. And so we just start the conversation. Maybe I just planted the seed that day, but when I see her next time and we bring that little girl back in and we can kind of have the conversation even in a little different way. Oh, I see Sarah's got a sniffly nose today. It's allergy season. It's so frustrating. We can talk about histamine reactions when we talk about chiropractic adjustment. They're never wasted words, because at some point there's going to be a moment when that hits her, hits mom or dad, and then they talk about bringing them in. It's funny. I think sometimes we feel like it's a wasted conversation if we don't see the result right there. And it doesn't have to happen then. It might not be, they may not be ready for it. And that's totally fine. I don't have to associate myself with that outcome. I just have to plant the seed and keep reaping that harvest, because it'll come around, and it does all the time. So we don't have to like really like scream for new patients, because they keep popping up with all the words and the table talk and the ways that we communicate with our patients.
Yeah, we used to have a saying in one of the management groups that it wasn't our job to convince you. Our job is to tell you the truth, and you get to make the decisions. Like, my job is not to. And when I heard that and really understood it, that took a lot of weight off my chest, because I
Oh,
felt like a salesman. I always did. I was like, I'm a salesman. And we're all selling something. I get
yeah.
that. But now, like, I had 2 reports today on new patients, and both of them, it was just so nice, cool, easy, because it's like, listen, I always start off by saying what my job is. The term doctor means teacher. It doesn't mean teller of all things. I'm not here to tell you what's going on. I'm here to show you what's going on, so that when you get to make a decision at the end of this, you make an informed decision.
Yes.
And it makes it so much easier. So much
So
easier. And
much.
I think I'm gonna throw in here a plug real quick, just because I love the guy, and you all know I love the guy. But when it comes to communication, and I tell everybody that I've referred into the group, and I tell my son, I tell everybody, there is nobody better than Dr. Borio at the communication, the ability to communicate, the ability to simplify, the ability to get the point across to someone who maybe doesn't know. I mean, Joe Borio and he has taught me. I mean, I went and did a talk at Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they come and they meet me in the elevator, 2 individuals, and they go, "So you're the chiropractor?" I said, "Yeah, I am." And he goes, we hate you, right?" That was his exact words. And I'm like in the elevator going, "What floor are we going to?" So, but I trained with the Borio a lot, and I looked at him and was like, "Why? Maybe I hate you." Just you just turned it into something funny. I'm like, "Well, I hate insurance. I don't have Blue Cross Blue Shield. Do you know that?" And
Yeah.
so the ability to communicate, it's all about a conversation. That's what practice is. It's all about a conversation. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's kind of move on from that direction. So, well, in practice, period. And I'm going to put you on the spot, and you're going to have to jog through probably a lot of advice you've been given. What's the one piece of advice that you were given from anybody, a mentor, a family member, husband, someone that you look back on and go, that was the advice, that was the one thing that got me, moving in this direction?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a tough one, because there's so many things that come to mind. Um, I, I think if I'm probably going to focus on two of them, and one of them was a bad piece of advice that I feel like I turned around, and then the other one was probably one of the better things that came up just through my heart a little bit. The first thing I remember being in chiropractic college, um, and I had a professor. I was really bad at probably addressing people informally, and I am a product of my mother, who would often, refer to people as sweetie and honey. And I think I said that to another chiropractic colleague, student in my classroom at the time. And I had a professor like jump down my throat about it. He was like, "Don't you ever call your patient sweetie. Don't you ever. You do not bring your personality into your practice. Don't you
Oh my
ever
God.
treat someone so disrespectfully." And I was like, "Okay." I just paused and went, "All right, I won't do that." And I think it was one of the worst pieces of advice I was ever given as a chiropractic
Mhm.
student, because we're not their primary care. We're not, we don't have that relationship with them. When people, I think the most successful cases I have in my office will come in, and I've heard it a million times the last couple of weeks when my student is here. "Oh, we've been here forever. We're family," because they know me and they know my staff, and they have shared themselves with us. And it's not because I come in staunchly and black and white have a conversation that doesn't look like I'm engaging or care at all about them. I talked to my staff this week about like missed appointment calls and how to have that conversation. And I said, if you are trying to reschedule that patient that missed an appointment because you think I'm going to be mad that they didn't reschedule, they're never going to get it. And honestly, you're never going to get it. I said, the reason you want them to reschedule is because you are concerned about how healthy they can be. You're concerned that they're losing correction. You're concerned that they're not as well as they can be because they weren't here today. It has nothing to do about protocols and procedures. And so when I really believe patients know that, like they feel that, they feed that, like they are a number, they know that. I spend 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes sometimes with patients, most often. I don't think any of them would comment on the amount of time that I spend with them. They'll talk about how they have connected with me, or that to them we've spent 10 minutes together. Their perception is based on quality and not quantity. And so now all of a sudden, when I'm not showing myself to them, or I'm not bringing myself to that, I think there's a reason why I see a lot of families. I think there's a reason why I see a ton of moms. They come in and they have a conversation with me because they trust me, and I want them to trust me. I take that with so much respect. So if I and so much gratitude, like if I didn't share myself in the way in how I am and what I believe and what that means, I don't think I would have nearly as much success as we've had. And then the other thing is kind of stemming from that a little bit is that like I felt like it was important for me to bring elements of myself into the practice that um, maybe not everybody was comfortable with. And I had to trust that it was kind of the right way for me. What I mean by that, I want when someone says anything about me, I hope that they will say that I am a disciple of Jesus. And I think it's important that I don't think there's a profession in the world that is more biblical than chiropractors outside the church. Mm-hmm. God's creation is so perfect. And we get to be part of continuing that perfection by just allowing that to function the way it was ultimately divinely designed. And so I started bringing part of myself into the practice that I wasn't sure how it would be received, but I realized like all the fruits of the spirit that we receive or that we get to give to others, I started seeing how they were returned. So slowly, I think I've talked to you, Dr. Wes, about we bring the Operation Christmas boxes into the office, mm-hmm. and we started having our kids start to fill out Christmas boxes, and they didn't even know who Jesus was or what that meant, but it was a way to plant a seed that talked about giving and why that was important to us in the office. Like it really was important to be giving to our community and to God's children in all the ways that we could. And then we started playing Christian music in the office. And I have had so many people walk in my door that'll go, oh, it's so nice to just lay down for 3 minutes and listen to the music before they get adjusted. And they tell me, oh, it's just so peaceful. I'm like, well, you had 3 minutes to lay there, but I'm so glad that it touched your heart and that 3 minutes that it made not only for a greater adjustment for you, but a lift of your spirit in that moment. We started praying for our patients. Like I had a woman in last week that was recently diagnosed with breast cancer, and I could just see she was just broken. Like you can see it in her face. I shut my pocket door for one time during the day. I said, we're going to pray for you. And she just, I get really anxious about those moments when I hear people say like, oh, thoughts and prayers, that means nothing. Well, I'm actually going to pray for you. I'm actually going to pray for you because I'm not going to just say I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray for you right now. I'm going to take an extra 60 seconds and I'm going to sit in here and we're going to pray for you. Sometimes my staff will come in and we'll pray over somebody. If I had listened to that chiropractor 20 years ago tell me don't bring that into your office, don't bring yourself into that office, like I have people that will ask me what Bible I read. They'll ask me where I go to church. I just had a patient send me a message and go, hey, do you mind if I come to church with you this week? I went, nope, see you there. And I met her there with her husband on Sunday. I don't know. It feels like our work is so much bigger than we even comprehend when we start putting these things together. And so we're just a part of it. Like we get to be a part of it. I can't believe I even get to be a part of what this is. And I think it genuinely, when I wasn't afraid to play some black and white role that I was supposed to play in a white coat and not say even, what my first name was, like I got to see all the benefit that came from that. So it was ignoring kind of that kind of sentiment back then and being able to move forward in a way that really resonated with me. And it never feels like a gimmick because it's just me. So
Awesome.
that was really kind of something that transformed my practice over time. And then honestly, the other thing that I think of so often was I was so attached to the outcome always. And so kind of bringing in all the things that I learned and being part of what I feel like is this genuine like miracle of restoration of what God created. I don't have to do anything. I'm not even doing the miracle when it happens. Like I'm just putting my hands on somebody and I'm restoring function and God's going to let the rest happen. Thank God. I can't do anything beyond what I know to do and then the rest is left to the person that knows exactly what to do. So I could so much that like disassociation from the outcome and the recognition of God really being in control and bringing that into my office, like 180.
Yeah, the way I explain to my patients with the whole I'm not a big fan of them. Expect miracles. You should
Mm.
expect miracles. You should. We all should. But to me, chiropractic's not a miracle. It's scientific. The miracle is that your body can heal. The miracle is that the removal of interference. I always tell my patients, you're not dead yet, because they'll always say, "Well, can this happen? Can that happen?" I always go, "Well, you're not dead yet. If the plant can, if it's dying and I just give it water and sunlight and it grows, I mean, it says in the Bible, are you not greater?"
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I don't think I'm not a fan of calling chiropractic miraculous because it's a scientific situation. If you call it miraculous, then more people think religiously, so to speak. But it is working with the miracle that is the human body.
Creation, for sure.
Absolutely. You're working with the breath of God and man. So
That's awesome.
yeah, that's excellent. Sorry, just throwing that in there. Go ahead,
Oh,
Parker.
Oh yeah. We have Christian music playing every day in our
love
office.
it.
I go
The
I go from
speaker.
Christian to ACDC, and it's a
Oh,
mix. And my patients are always like, "Whose playlist is this?" Or like, "It's Doc's." And I even do Christian rap. There's Christian rap. I do that too.
there
Yep.
it is.
Yep. All right, Nicole. This will be kind of, I just want your opinion on this, some advice. I don't feel like there's any right or wrong answer. Just want to see. I'm really pretty sure we know the answer to these just after talking to you, but I'm going to give you a couple. I'm going to give you three, like this or this questions, and you just tell me which one that you think would be great advice for young docs coming out of school. All right. So number one is, uh, would you say low overhead or go big to start?
Low overhead.
Low overhead. All right. Number two, associate or start your own practice.
Oh, start your own practice. Just find your people.
There you go. And that's what we're working to do right now.
Yeah.
You never know, you might get phone calls from this. And number three, management group or go it alone.
Management group.
Awesome.
That's awesome. And then I'm already like, so Travis and I will not be. We're also hunting buddies, and we will not be at the seminar because we got drawn for a trophy mule deer hunt. Now I'm like, dang it, Nicole's talking. Like
Yeah.
I'm a little fired up. I'm like, you know what? She's hitting on a lot of good points, and I'm like, man, I wish we were going to be there, but sorry, sis, I didn't
Oh,
know.
we'll miss you.
I'm sure.
It'll
So
be.
the last question we have, and then you can fill in anything you want afterwards. If you have anything to say, I mean, you literally you're a rock star. You've been awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, I want you to, before you go, I want you to hit on, like, how many days a week you work, the numbers that you do see. I think it's important. I think it's important that they hear these things, and we should not shy away from these things. I've
Sure.
only seen 200 in a day once, and that was fairly recently. So that I think it's just amazing. But before we go, the $1 million question, we like to end by asking this: do you believe the world needs more or less chiropractors, and why?
Hmm. Gosh, the world needs more chiropractors. There's no question about that. And I think, but we need a certain kind of chiropractor. And so here's my hope is that we get chiropractors that are excited about the adjustment. because the adjustment is what we do. And I won't deny that there's a ton of temptations out there to bring all these other things and bells and whistles into your office and to make chiropractic something other than than what it is. But chiropractic is the adjustment. And so I have been able to be successful in my practice. I have nothing else but the adjustment. And when people come in and they feel well or they're excited about what we're doing, it's not because they can tell me that there's 82 other things that I'm doing. They're excited about the adjustment. And I'm amazed at how many people will come into my office, excuse me, and tell me that their last visit to the chiropractor, they didn't get adjusted. And I'm blown away by that. So if I'm excited to bring more chiropractors into this country, this world, it's because I hope that they come in as principal chiropractors that are excited to learn more about what it is that we do, but that they're excited to adjust their patients and that they're excited to tell those families what we do when we adjust the spine and what it can do for them. So I think that's an important element that we miss when we start talking about chiropractors that want to prescribe medications and chiropractors that want to do this and do that. It like burns a hole in me because it's so foreign to what we've done and what we've created and what we want our patients to know about us. I am a pretty busy chiropractor. I have grown from 0 patients on my schedule, finding that I was adjusting. I was really excited if we hit 20 people that week. It was a good week if I could meet my overhead with 20 people that week. And I would do that in 5 days, sometimes 6 days, often 6 days. I'd put my phone on, I'd forward at the office, so it came to my cell phone on Saturday and Sunday. And now I work 2.5 days a week, and we see on average about 450 a week in that 2.5 days. So we see usually like 200, 200, 100 on the schedule on a half day Thursday. And then obviously we'll lose those numbers a little bit from cancels and no shows and move arounds. But I've been really grateful to get to that number. I wasn't striving for a number. I never set a goal for a number. I just wanted to see as much as I could see. And I think there's a cap in there that we feel comfortable with. And I feel comfortable with where I'm at. I actually don't strive to see any more than that. I know there are docs that will see more than that, and that's amazing. I feel like I'm in a good groove at this level, and I still get connected with my patients, and I'm really happy with where that stands. So I'm good with it. The one thing that we recognize that I did share with Dr. Joe that I was excited about is even through all the maternity leaves and even through, the COVID of are you medically necessary and all these other, are you that important to stay open and keep your doors open and all those crazy times. I just happened to run across all of my tax records and I was pulling them out year to year. And just for the fun of it, I started writing numbers down of our gross at the end of the year. And I went, I've never had a year go down. I've never, in all those years, in 20 years, it may not have been a massive leap from one year to the next, but every year we've grown just a little bit. So I am a big fan of slow and steady. And I never really made any major gimmick happen that I doubled my practice in a year. Like I just slow and steady, just kept at it and kept talking to my patients. And every time I get distracted, I remind myself. And every time I say the word a little, I reprimand myself and I move on and I have a better quality conversation with those people as the day goes on. And we grow a little bit more because of it.
That's awesome.
Good
Well,
stuff.
you're a rock star. You really are.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Glad we finally got it together. Glad you got on here, and we will be distributing this to. Travis, your brother, not your son, is not a student anymore, is he?
Well, he's in his clinic-based internship. He's basically, and what's really awesome is he drives our spare truck, right? He's 19 years younger, so he's like our oldest child.
Yeah.
And we love him to death, but he's the truck that we bought him when he turned 16, I never thought would last as long as it did. And he finally had an accident in it in Dallas, and no one was really hurt, but the vehicle was hurt. So we got him one of our daughter's trucks, and we upgraded her to another car. And so it needed a brake change. So the brake change went south. So the truck had to stay here. He had to drive my really expensive King Ranch truck in Dallas. And I was like, let's get this crap done because the only one who needs to drive that truck in Dallas is me. So I went up there and I got to meet the lady that he's working for. It's really interesting. I won't get into all of that, but basically, she's like, I usually let people come in and start to adjust a portion of my patient load, and I've just let him take it. She stands there and like she's like a Walmart greeter. She stands there and greets people and hugs them, this and that, and then he's over there rocking and rolling and adjusting them, right? So he graduates on December the 13th,
Okay.
and he'll come over here to the office. I've never had an associate or sublet or anything like that. It makes me so stinking nervous, but I set my office up when I remodeled it for me to at some point in the future phase me out, to where I'm not the primary guy doing the work. And it just so happens that he'll come in and he'll try to get his start in my office, and then he'll go where he wants to go, which is up in actually in Bixby, Oklahoma, is where he wants to
Oh,
end up in. So
you love your brother more than I love my son. I'm not doing that for my boy. I'm sorry. Sorry, Logan. I know you're gonna watch this, but hell no. I still love you. So really appreciate this. Hey, kick butt this weekend at the seminar. That's gonna be awesome. I truly do. I mean, I hated to miss it then anyway, but now I truly am like, dang it, because the lineup, it does seem pretty good. It really does. A lot of good docs. So appreciate you, sis. Thanks for coming on. We'll talk soon and have a great rest of your week.
Thank
thank
you.
you, Nicole.
You got it. Thanks, guys.